So before I start this video, I just want to say that I had the honor and privilege of interviewing one of my good friends, Dave Walker. Dave is a f***ing rock star. He graduated from West Point Military Academy, commissioning as a United States Army infantry officer, and he served in various units in the United States Army with the 82nd Airborne Division, 3rd Ranger Battalion, and lastly in 5th Special Forces Group. He even currently serves in the Board of Advisors for the Green Beret Foundation, a nonprofit that supports wounded and fallen Green Berets and their families. And after the military, he transitioned over to a career of finance, working on Wall Street for several years in various executive positions. On paper, he is a rock star. So about a year and a half ago, he contacted me needing help to move over to Thailand. More than happy to, and I've always wondered, given somebody with his accomplished resume, why would he want to move over here to Thailand? What are some of his reasons? Maybe, there's some motivations, there's some frustrations of why somebody with his background in Wall Street, would want to come over and live here in Thailand. In this video, we're going to get to know Dave, and we're going to find out. First and foremost, Dave.
Oh, Forrest, good to see you again.
Good to see you, even though we saw each other 2 days ago.
I know.
So a little bit...
Over some good burgers.
Over some good burgers.
Very good burgers.
You know, a little bit of how Dave and I met. Dave, you coached, or you booked one of my consulting sessions.
I did.
And got you over to...
It was fantastic, yeah.
Yeah, appreciate it. And then got you over here, when was this, like 2 years ago?
It was November of 2022.
November of 2022.
So what is it, like 18 months ago. 18
months ago, so a year and a half ago. And you know, when I first met you, you know, you're kind of a very, you're a humble guy, you're a cool guy, but you definitely did not let a lot on. You're really good at hiding it, and I kind of got that from the first time I met you. And later, as I've grown to know you as one of my good friends here, you're a very humble guy with many, many accolades.
Oh, I appreciate that. You're very kind, too kind.
So one of them being a quiet professional. So that's one thing I really respect about you. Very interested in getting to know your life story. For your background. Your main profession is that you worked on Wall Street for a considerable amount of years, and then eventually decide to travel to Thailand and stay here for a bit.
Yes.
But let's go back to the very beginning of who my friend over here, Dave Walker, is all about. So Dave, do you mind telling a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I grew up in Southern California. I went to high school in Southern California, ran cross country and track. I wrestled for a couple of years. Got accepted to the University of Texas. My brother was 2 years ahead of me. He was already going to school there. And he was kind of partying and kind of working and kind of going to school, I think in that order. And so it looked like he was going to take a longer route to get through college. And I thought that perhaps that wasn't really going to work for me. And there were times when my dad had cut him off financially. And I thought, well, if that happens to me, then it'll be a bit of a challenge to get through college. And I had looked into the military, serving in the military while I was in high school anyway. For something that I would do after high school. And so I decided to, instead of going straight to college, join the Army and get the college fund. Back then they called it something different. It's the GI Bill now, but they call it something. It's not as good as it is now. It's pretty darn good now.
Yeah.
But I joined the Army as an enlisted guy to get the college fund. Ended up doing very well. I was an athlete, so in basic training, I maxed the PT test. I came in first. I was distinguished honor grad in basic training, distinguished honor grad in AIT. I was, it's Army. I grew up in a very disciplined household. It's a nice way of putting it. And so the yelling and screaming was just another day for me, and it was pretty easy. I was like, they don't hit you. That's fantastic. Yeah. You just got to do push-ups. I can do those all day. And so I distinguished myself pretty well. I went to my unit. I did very well. And so while I was in my unit, I got my orders to get out of the military and go back to college and use the GI Bill. Or I should have probably right before I got my orders, some of the officers, the young lieutenants and whatnot, said, "Hey, you should consider either going to Green to Gold or ROTC." I didn't have enough college credits, but going to ROTC, going to college in ROTC, or going to West Point. And I didn't do a whole lot of research. I didn't even know what West Point was. But long story short, I ended up applying for the West Point as a prep school in Fort Monmouth, New Jersey. Now I think they moved it, but I went to the prep school there for about a year, and then competed with all those folks in the prep school, and then got accepted at West Point. And ended up going to West Point. where I was commissioned and went back into the military. So I liked the military. It was kind of suited for me and how I grew up.
So after you graduated from West Point,
Yeah.
you commissioned as an officer, so you went the green to gold route, or the West Point route.
Yeah, the West Point, yeah.
What were you commissioned as? What was your job, your MOS?
So I actually did pretty well at West Point too. I was, I think, in the top, around the top 10% of my class, and they take a lot of academics and physical fitness and all. Anyway, so I got to kind of choose, and I had a mentor, and he was in the infantry, and he kind of guided me towards the infantry. In hindsight, I probably would have liked to choose something that would give you a profession post-military, but I thought I would be in the military for the rest of my life. So I ended up choosing the infantry as my branch. My branch, and then I ended up. And then I was high enough to choose what location, my assignment, and I picked the 82nd Airborne because that's a pretty darn good unit.
All the way.
And yeah, exactly, all American. And then I was a PL, and I was very lucky. I had like 3 platoons in the 82nd. First the 05, first the 505th. I had this, and then I had the Scout platoon as my last platoon, and then I tried out for a third Ranger Battalion. And I got accepted into 3rd Ranger Battalion.
Over in Fort Benning, Georgia.
In Fort Benning, Georgia, yeah. Tryouts were pretty tough, and like road march and all a bunch of other things, and a bunch of folks washed out, and I happened to make it. And so then I was a PL platoon leader in 3rd Bat for like 2 years, and then I always wanted to become a Green Beret. I guess I must have seen some John Wayne movie or something years ago, and
the best movie.
Yeah. And I ended up trying out for Special Forces. I went through the selection process, made it to Special Forces. Got my Green Beret and led a Special Forces Detachment Alpha SFODA in 5th Special Forces Group.
Over in Fort Campbell.
In Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Nice.
That's correct. Right. Responsible for the Middle East, and I took some Arabic. They sent me to Arabic school and whatnot. And so I ran that ODA for a couple of years, and then ended up getting out after that. Yeah.
Very nice. I feel like a giant scrub compared to you.
No. It was. I mean, at the time, it was just something that I was very focused on for some weird reason. I don't know. And I went over to Kuwait for a little. I had a couple of deployments. Nothing major like the guys after us, who were in a lot of the big stuff. Yeah.
You said before that you were thinking about making this into your career. Mm-hmm. What was the turning point of wanting that led you to say, hey, you know what? Maybe I don't want to do a full 20, 30 years in SF, and maybe I want to do something else on the outside.
Yeah,
what led to that?
That was a long process. It was like a 2-year process. Of course, this was the end of the 90s, and not a whole lot was going on. And I was married at the time, and always deployed. Like, I think 1 year, you keep your deployment. I think 1 year I was gone 248 days out of the year. Not consecutively, but you go away for 6 months or 3 months, come back for 3 weeks, go away. So it was a little bit stressful on the marriage. Of course, this is during the, like I said, the late 90s. The economy's doing unbelievably well. Friends have gotten out. Some of them have gone to business school or law school and gotten amazing careers. And my wife at the time was like, hey, your friends are making all this money and you're running around in the woods, training for something that's going to happen, or maybe it won't happen. What do you want to do here? So we talked about it for about 2 years, and I made that decision in literally December of '99 to get out, and I also got accepted to business school at Northwestern University, Kellogg, and
you got accepted to Kellogg while you were in group.
Let me see. I'm trying to put the time on. I was doing a lot of that prior to getting out. I was taking like the GMAT, and whatnot. And I think I got accepted like 7 months after I got out. So like it was. It didn't start until like the September of that. So I guess I got accepted, but I had like time to kill.
Yes.
So I took a little job at Capital One, believe it or not.
Wow.
For like 7 months,
okay.
Just to I could whatever. And so I worked there for like 7 months. Before business school, just because
something to do.
I probably should have traveled or something in hindsight, but yeah.
It's all right. You're doing it right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you walk us briefly through business school over in Kellogg, and maybe after graduating, and what led you to transitioning to a career in finance, particularly on Wall Street?
Yeah, sure. Business school is interesting, and I think it was probably more helpful for me than somebody coming out of industry, because I didn't know Porter's 5 forces. I mean, the 5 forces were like infantry, artillery, So I was coming in there completely green. So for somebody like me, business school I think is very helpful. Perhaps not as helpful as for somebody coming out of a McKinsey or a Goldman. When I see those, when I saw my peers coming out of those firms, business school was like a 2-year vacation for them. Plus their firms were paying for it. They were out partying every night. I'm studying at the library because I didn't know any of these concepts, and stocks and options and equities and I bought some stocks, but I didn't know a call from a put. I had no idea. So for me, it was I think quite helpful. It was a big sink financially. I put myself about 130 grand in the hole, plus 2 years of no income. So you do the math, that's maybe a quarter to $500,000 all in. But you're hopeful that it pays off because it's a good school, the lessons that you learn, and of course the network effect, and there's a few other things. But so then the dot-com bust hits, no one's getting jobs, it's like really difficult. I ended up getting 3 offers from firms. I took an offer from a firm in Eastman Chemical Company in Kingsport, Tennessee. It was kind of middle of no man's land, and I was working new business development, doing some licensing deals, and we were buying some small other companies there. But it was kind of, I ended up going through a divorce.
Sorry.
No, I mean, we can talk concepts on marriage and how that's changing over time too.
Yes.
You know, that's for another video. You know, you can see marriage rates plummeting, and they will continue to do so. It's just like automobile ownership. It's like people own it. Like your kids will laugh at you. Dad, why would you own an automobile? That's ridiculous. It's like a newspaper, trying to explain to a kid what a newspaper, like the world is changing. It's changing very rapidly, and we can talk investing too. Anyway, so long story short, a buddy of mine was at a fund. He was on the convert desk, convertible arbitrage, and they were looking for a back office guy to help the COO out. He said, would I know anyone? I said, what about me? I sent my resume in. I interviewed with like 4 or 5 people. I got the offer. And so I'm driving to New York City, reading a book, trying to understand what a hedge fund is. I interview halfway decent, and I was smart enough to and my work ethic was hard enough, and I'm sure him being there was a little bit helpful.
Yes.
But he was a big earner for them. But so I show up in New York, my first hedge fund. It was called Concordia Advisors. And I was very lucky for 2 reasons because, well, the first reason was it was a multi-strat. So it had many different, it had an equity desk, distressed, fixed income ARB, fixed income a convert desk, a municipal bond trading desk. So I had all the different strategies to kind of learn. And multi-offices, we had an office in Bermuda, an office in London. I got to fly to Bermuda and London, like I had to fly to London and Bermuda once a quarter, darn it. You know, I have to fly to Bermuda again for the week. But it was so much fun, and I learned a lot. And it was kind of, they don't really have a train-up course, like if you go to Goldman or JP Morgan or Morgan Stanley, they're going to train you for 6 weeks with books and class. It was more like trial by fire, here, figure it out.
So it wasn't like that Will Smith movie when he was interning at Dean Witter, nothing like that at all?
It was not, no, and it was really trial by fire. My first week there, Sean, the COO, hands me, he didn't even look at me, he's like, Walker, figure this out. And I look at it and I said, what is an international swap and derivatives agreement? And he's like, and he didn't even look at me. He said, Walker, in the industry, we call it an ISDA. And he just said, that's what it's called. And it was like an 80-page document. So I'm like, all right, he's trying to say, read the damn document, figure it out, do it. So I would read this document. Same thing, the girl next to me, I remember her name was Yuki. I won't say her last name. I'd ask her where something was, and she would say, fuck you, Walker. Kind of joking, but kind of serious. No, I'm like, seriously, where's the Goldman file? Fuck you, Walker. And she was basically saying, hey, I came in here, I figured it out, and you do the same. So I'd go, this is back in the day where there were giant server rooms and giant file rooms, and you'd search for stuff. And
so this was your rite of passage?
It was trial by fire. And I said, listen,
passage.
I'm a Green Beret, they're not going to break me. It's like, are you kidding? And some guys broke. I watched guys walk out after a couple weeks on the job, get up at, we would work there from 6 in the morning to 10 at night. I never saw my neighborhood. My mom asked me, hey, how's your new neighborhood? You've been in New York 6 months. I have no idea. It's been dark when I left and dark when I got back. I'm sure it's a great neighborhood.
Yeah.
But go sleep for 4 hours, get up and go to work. Anyway, some kid one time, I remember he gets up and he just literally walks out and everyone's like, where's he going? Who knows? He's probably getting a cigarette. He never came back. He quit the firm. Fuck. That's not how you quit. You should probably quit in a more polite manner. But anyway, so people broke, and that's kind of how a lot of these shops operate. Anyway, they didn't break me.
Good.
None of that. I excelled. I got job offers and became a director of operation, and I moved up to a COO and et cetera. Yeah.
Over at your first start in Concordia, you worked your way up and then went over to
No, I actually
firms.
got recruited away. So I'm out running in the park, Central Park, with a buddy of mine. He's running a small fund. It's growing. And he's like, hey, we're looking for a director of operations. I'm like, oh, great. If I know anyone, I'll let you know. He's like, no, Dave, we're on this run because I want to ask you to take the job.
So you've done multiple positions like CFO, CEO, and
yes,
all the
So I was at Concordia for 2 years. I got a job offer to be director of ops. I ran operations there. And this is the ops there were broken, right? So they were doing the old handwritten trade tickets, just time stamping them, putting it in a spreadsheet. It was like, so I brought in all like advanced systems, right? Because I started learning like what's out there technology-wise. Brought in advanced portfolio management system, advanced trade system, cuts down on trade breaks, cuts down on errors. So now, becomes smoother. Now a trader doesn't have to write out a ticket and put stuff in by hand. He can just hit a button and now it's all like so smooth,
Yeah,
right?
it's all online brokers.
This is, now it's like easy, right? But back then everything was a little bit more clunky. And systems didn't talk to each other. Now you can do straight through processing, and this was T+3 for settlement and clearing. Now it's gone to T2. Now it's T1.
So this was way back in the day when everything was done on the floor, like handwritten.
Yeah. So what we would do is we would either put in a trade order and we'd go to a floor broker, or so some things would go straight to a floor broker. Sometimes I had this little handheld goofy thing, was an open outcry and stuff like that, like you see in trading places, But it was still very clunky when the trade would come back. The commission might be off, or something might be off a little, a fee or something like that, and then the trade would break. And so you'd have to you had 3 days to clean that up. And so the more you can automate something, the smoother that process could be. And that's where I was kind of came in and would fix these broken processes and take them to the next level. So I kind of became known for that guy who can do that. Come into a
back office guy,
back office, middle office,
Gotcha.
come into a shop, take them from what they got now to best practices, the next level, bringing in software and technology. And those software and technologies has moved to even better software and technology. And but you have to but even if you bring that, you still have people, process and controls. I like to kind of put it in that manner. You have the technology you got to bring, but then you got to train the people up. And you have a process, and you have to have the controls along doing a process, so you don't. Like an error would flow right through back in the old days, and no one could catch the error.
Gotcha.
I would go to London, in our back office in London, my first shop in 2004, and I would see people put multiple entries in one cell, like 40. And you do that, the error gets passed on to the next person in that spreadsheet. Anyway, I won't ramble on, but you probably have to edit that part.
No worries. No, so given with all your positions and working for Concordia and then getting recruited away, doing CFO, CEO positions.
Right. Then I became a CFO of a multi-strategy, multi-billion-dollar fund, and
What is your personal experience in working with all these firms, and particularly working with the billionaires from your billionaire bosses? And, what are your key lessons that you learned from these experiences?
Yeah. So at two firms. One firm I was a COO, CFO of. It was two guys. They had a very successful track record, multi-billion-dollar shop, and they became very wealthy. And they're both billionaires now. I think they were on the cusp back then. But one thing I learned a lot. The second set of billionaires, again, they were all very good to me, very kind to me, very good, compensated me well. But I would just listen. It's not like they took me in and said, I want to teach you this, teach you that. It was just, sometimes their offices were 10, 15 feet away and the door would be open. And I would hear an army of tax accountants and strategists and lawyers, and go in there and just work with them on certain ways to kind of structure their wealth. And I would listen, I would say, well, what's that? And I would Google it, and why can't I do that? And I would do the smaller versions of what they were doing in a few different things. I learned would listen about trusts and self-directed IRAs and doing privates through IRAs and things all kinds of things like that, which are very accretive, to your own, your own wealth strategies. And so it was a very good time working for them. And these especially the second two set, I think they were the next Buffett and Munger. These are value guys, and they're very smart and very good at what they do. And like I said, they were good to me, and I just kind of paid attention. So if you just pay attention, you can learn.
I think one thing that you've told me about working with these guys is that what is their first priority that they want to focus on? Is pretty much just.
It seemed to me, and this is maybe just my impression, but it seemed to me that when I would hear them structure something, or somebody would come in with an investment proposal, I think they worked out first, what is the best way to structure it for a tax advantage? What is the best way to do this investment, if we are going to do this investment, to save the most on taxes? And it's everything perfectly legal. It was just they structured things in a very smart manner.
Priority number one, saving on taxes.
I think it was that. That's the impression I got. Even before the IRR, because if you make, let's say, 20%, but you're given 30% of your 20% or 35% of your 20% back to the government, you might as well make 16% without that. But if it's going to make 20% and you can somehow structure it in a way that you only pay a smaller amount to the government, and you can read articles on this online. It's all out there. You know, you can read about Peter Thiel's self-directed Roth IRA. It's the biggest Roth IRA.
6 billion, I think. Right?
I think it's around 5 or 6 billion. Yeah, and he owes the government zero, but he can't touch it until he's 59 and a half. So you have a choice in life. You can get to 59 and a half, or you can die. And if you get to 59, great. But if you don't get to 59, your heirs are going to be happy. Someone's going to be happy because you structured this thing right. So I learned how to do that. That was one of the lessons I learned. I set up a self-directed Roth IRA a bunch of years back, and I did like 3 or 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 privates through it now.
Nice.
And you know, one's been very creative. 2 are going to be fantastic. One is, man, who knows? Yeah. But it was you know, it's very helpful when you do the compounding of the compounding. So not only did you save on that one, but then you can deploy that capital again. So anything you save by certain tax structures, you can redeploy into other investments. And again, it's all perfectly legal and whatnot. It's
I never heard about a self-directed IRA until I first met you.
Yeah,
the only thing I've heard about is just traditional Roth, your basic ones.
You can do Bitcoin and crypto through that, but you don't have to do that anymore because now they have the ETFs. But back then you couldn't do the ETFs. So if you wanted to buy Bitcoin through your IRA, you had to go through a special firm to do that, and it was like $25K just for the welcome to the door fee. Or you could set up one of these on your own and just do it yourself through whatever. Yeah. And that's what I did. And so that's part of my
Perfect. All right, so what I'm really curious is what pivoted you to start feeling that you needed to leave your working environment or leaving the United States? Like, was it due to possible dissatisfaction from work or from life, or what? Yeah. What was the?
That's a good question. So I ended up starting a firm with a guy like 11 years ago. We started a firm, grew it to about 160 million under management. He was a head trader. He came out of a very well-known hedge fund. We ran that for about 4 or 5 years, and unfortunately, for about 4 years, it didn't do well, so I had to shut it down. Then I went to another multi-billion-dollar shop where I had a great job as the COO, CFO there, and I said, well, I'll never do a startup again. My buddy kept coming to me. We kept having lunches, another guy, lunches and dinners, and for almost 2 years, and he wanted to start a fund, and I kept saying it's a terrible idea. He had a great job, making like $3 a year. I said, listen, man, keep your day job. It's not as glamorous as, you know, we all talk about the Paul Tudor Joneses of the world, and that's one out of, and there's thousands of people down at the bottom trying to scrape their way. But I said one day I asked him to explain his strategy and the way he looked at the world, and he was a pretty successful growth investor, and he outlined his thesis, and I was like, wow, that's pretty unique, that's pretty cool, and I actually kind of understood like the S-curve and all that. So I said, listen, if you're going to ruin your life, I can't let you do it alone. So I quit my job in the process and helped him start up this fund. You know, it's this is not the first time I've seen when a guy comes out of a bigger shop that sometimes he struggles. And you know, we've talked about this, so hopefully I don't want to throw him under the bus. He's a great guy. We're still good friends. But he had a challenging. Like the first 2 years were great. He did real well. The numbers were good. Then the second 2 or 3 years, he had a challenging time with the strategy. You know, it wasn't any help that the Fed was raising rates and whatnot. And when you're in a macro environment like that, you know, small cap growth with no earnings gets massacred, and you can't ride those down. And we had a different risk management philosophy, and I wanted to like cut off the losers and just let, you know, and or hedge them and a little bit more aggressively. And bottom line is the firm started losing, the fund started losing a lot of money. Losing money in a bad year, then we lost money in a good year. So it's like we can't make money. It's like you're supposed to be a hedge fund. You're supposed to make money in both those scenarios. So I basically saw the impending end, and I said, well, you know, I'm still kind of young enough that I can go back to work for someone. I have a very strong resume. I'm in pretty high demand. And I'm not going to get this opportunity to kind of go and travel and do things. I had set up the fund to be able to work from my laptop even before COVID. And it's funny because I told my business partner, we were in Stamford, Connecticut, and I was living there for a year, and I was like, this is the social, the social death zone. And I said, I got to move back to Manhattan, or I decided to move to Miami. So I moved to Miami. He said, no, nobody works remote. 6 months later, COVID hit, and he's like, everybody works remote. You know, it's like I got proven. And I said, listen, if I can work from Miami and our funds in Connecticut, I can probably work from anywhere in the world. So years earlier, I had promised myself a trip to Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam. I'm like, shit, I want to do that trip that I wanted to go to Angkor Wat for like so many years. So I put my stuff in storage one time a long time ago before, and it just kind of like stuff gets beat up, and I was like, you get this weird attachment to your stuff, like this weird stuffitis. Especially I had like some pretty high-end custom-made furniture and all this stuff, and I was like, man, maybe I should sell it. And then, long story short, I sold the first item, and I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. Like I couldn't believe how happy I was. I thought it'd be like a little bit sad and disappointed. I was listing everything. I was like, get rid of it all. And it felt so liberating. And I was selling shit. People came to, like, I think I told you some stories before, like I had mispriced a lot of things. I just wanted out the door. And one guy was tearing up because I sold him my Donald Takayama in the pink surfboard for like $125, and I'd used it like 6 times, and probably worth $900. But he was very thankful. So I sold a lot of stuff, and just packed up a bunch. I put some stuff in storage.
So you're liberating yourself from the whole consumerist culture that
I gave away a $2,500 carbon fiber bike. I even paid for the shipping, shipped it to a buddy of mine in New York. Because I'm like, I can put it in storage, it can collect dust, or he can ride it. Yeah. Like, I want it to be like, give
it to your buddy, might as well.
A bike is a bike. Like, you were weirdly attached to this bike, and I had some good trips, and I did a century ride. Like, you had these, memories, and you're like, but it's like, I don't know what it was, but it's just like we fall into this trap, and it's just a bunch of rhetoric, and people like love their car, and I would love I'll have a motorcycle again. I love motorcycles. That's different to me. That's more cathartic and therapeutic. Yeah. But like if I never own a car again, I could care less. Or if I never owned a house, or if I never owned furniture. It's like we have this mindset, and the trend's coming back, by the way. Remember McMansions were the thing for many years? Yeah. That trend is dying, and your kids will probably never own real estate. Maybe they will for whatever. I don't know. I don't think they'll own cars. I don't think they'll own, like the whole stuffitis thing. I think that trend is ending. So it's going to take a while.
People are going minimal.
It's just experiences in life and traveling. I've been to 18, 19 countries in 17 months. It's crazy.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been great. And so you were very helpful to kind of help me out over here, and I was going to do like the big loop because I wanted to go to like all 11 Southeast Asian countries, and you're like, no, plant a flag and just kind of do hub and spoke, and that worked out better.
Yeah, hub and spoke being, have a base and then just travel from that base.
Yeah, because it's so cheap to rent an apartment. I have a luxury apartment, 2-bedroom luxury apartment. I don't even know why it's 2 bedrooms. But I don't need it, but whatever. But it's a beautiful apartment, full-size health club and everything like that, but it's so darn cheap that you can just like have your stuff and then go somewhere and come back. So we went to Japan and came back, went to Australia and came back, went to Philippines and came back. I've been to Europe twice and came back. Like it's so easy to do that from here.
Before we get into that, I wanted to ask you, what piqued your interest in Thailand out of all places that you can choose from? Like Europe?
Exactly.
You could East Asia, Japan, or even Central Eastern Europe. Out of all places, what made you choose Thailand?
Yeah, so Thailand. So I had been here before about 11 years ago with the girl that I was dating from New York, and she was like, "Hey, I'm going to go to Myanmar and Thailand for 3 weeks." I'm like, "Okay, cool." But she had been to Thailand before, but she hadn't been to Myanmar. So most of the trip was Myanmar. We went to Bagan, and we went to Mandalay and Rangkong. I don't know the capital, I forget the name, but it was beautiful, amazing trip. So we spent 2 weeks doing that, and she's like, "Hey, let me just show you when I backpacked here, like when I was in my 20s." It was like, great, cool. So we came to Bangkok, then we went to Phuket, then we went to Railay, then went to Koh Phi Phi and Koh Lanta and Koh Nan. Well, basically island hopping for like another week or week and a half. And I just remember how beautiful it was. Like, it was earth-shatteringly beautiful. Like, this has got to be some of the most beautiful beaches on the planet Earth. I mean, maybe the Philippines rival it and a few other places. And it's a different type of beauty because instead of like a flat, beautiful beach, it has these beautiful mountains and those rock formations. Some of them are hollow with caves. And the water is just crystal clear. It looks like the boats are floating. I would take pictures. Even now, I've taken a picture when we were down in Railay and sent it. People are like, "Oh, it's a nice postcard." I'm like, "No, I just took that like 5 minutes ago." Like, it looks like a postcard. Yeah. It's just crazy. And this is on an iPhone. It's just so amazing and beautiful. And the people here are so cool. And it's such a friendly country and friendly people. And we kind of talked about this before. It's almost like New York on steroids, Bangkok. So it's kind of crazy with this hustle and bustle, but it's like a fun chaos. I call it polite chaos.
Yeah, I call it organized chaos.
Yeah, it's organized, but it's kind of like a polite. They kind of like a little bit of beep, but it's not like it's not angry at all. It's like fun and polite chaos. And like New York doesn't have a lot of motorcycles, but this has like a lot of motorcycles and motor scooters and stuff like that, which I like just to see because I grew up riding motorcycles.
Yeah.
So it's like this vibrant city, super high-end malls. You walk into a mall, it's all Gucci and Prada and Fendi and
A lot of luxuries.
all luxury, super high-end luxury malls, like really beautifully designed buildings too, and so everything is like super high-end. You know, you can go to areas where it's not so much like that. Where we live, it's all high-end stuff. We're kind of spoiled, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
But the challenge of it is, if you're trading in the market, if you're doing stuff New York time, you're literally 11 to 12 hours off, depending on whether so you're half a world away, and that makes it sometimes for late nights or early mornings.
Yeah, I think for us, it's 8:30 at night when the market opens.
Yeah. It can be 8:30 or 9:30, even 9:30 if it's not daylight saving times. Yeah. So, and then if you trade the close, it's 3:30 or 4:30.
I got to wake up at 2:45 or 3:45 to trade the close.
And you got to kind of shake the cobwebs out and stuff like that. So it's a little bit of a challenge. Sometimes if you're doing calls, like I'm doing Zooms, and people are thinking I'm zooming from Miami, but I'm zooming from Bangkok, and so it can be a little groggy. I would say would be pretty much the only challenge, because everything else. So for me, I wanted to knock out as much as I could in Southeast Asia in terms of travel, and Japan and South Korea. We're probably going to go to South Korea just for the hell of it, just because I'm in it. It makes it a lot easier than flying 20 hours to go to someplace.
All right,
Yeah.
This is going to be kind of a two-part question.
Sure.
Was the process of leaving America and moving to Thailand, like, what was that like? I mean, was it hard saying goodbye to your possessions, your friends and family? How do you personally feel? And then the second part of the question is, obviously you already covered this already, but your first impressions of Thailand.
Yeah.
I know there's the luxury malls, working on US hours, the people are nice, you got organized chaos.
Yeah.
But, you already covered that, but more so about like cost of living, or actually you already covered working remotely, but like dating, et cetera, et cetera. So whatever you want to share from out of those.
All right. So saying goodbye. My mom, I was in the military. You were in the so my mom. She's like, "Where's Dave?" And we almost have a joke. If we don't hear from Dave, he's probably alive. You know what I'm saying? If like two guys show up in suits at the door, like, "All right, where's the body?" It's like, so my mom, once a month I make sure I say, "I'm alive. Where are you now? Japan or Bangkok?" Or, okay, nice. How is it? Rome. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So whatever. It's just my family. Everyone's scattered anyway, so it wasn't that big of a deal. I had some friends, obviously. When I moved to Miami, I only knew 3 people there.
Okay.
And so a buddy introduced me to know another guy. So I had some friends there that I'd known for, but again, they do the same thing. They either travel a lot or what have you. So it wasn't that difficult, and I kind of wanted to shake things up anyway, because I was feeling a little bit down knowing that the firm is going to end in 12 to 18 months. And so I kind of wanted something to get excited about. And so I think the hardest part was, as weird as it seemed, it was like you have some weird mental attachment to your possessions. I think a lot of people do, especially if they're pretty nice. Like I said, some of my furniture was custom made. I had to wait 6 weeks to buy a whatever. And I had some art that I had bought from local artists in Brooklyn and whatever. You can find some of that. And I got it appraised, got it insured, packed it up and sent it to my sister, who kind of collects some art and stuff like that. And I said, "It's yours. You can sell it or burn it. I don't care." Hopefully she didn't burn it. So that made sense to do that. But once some of the other high-end stuff went out the door and people with a good eye showed up, like I said, they backed up the truck and said, "We'll take it all." All the high-end stuff, like this one lady, she was told her husband, take it, bye. Once that went out the door, it felt very liberating.
Nice.
It's insane. And I realized that we make these false links, and there's a lot of rhetoric out there. And I said, what else am I doing wrong? What other rhetoric, what other bullshit, I might have to edit that, what other bullshit have I believed for decades that isn't true? What are the statistics saying? Now I say, what's the rhetoric versus the research? And it helps me in investing too. The rhetoric might be X, but the research says Y. I'm going with the numbers. And there's concepts about relationships and concepts about owning a home and concepts about investing and concepts about your possessions. I think that's malarkey. A lot of it's just rhetoric that's pushed about media. Mainstream media wants you to, because it's the U.S. consumer that keeps the U.S. economy afloat. The U.S. economy keeps the world afloat. So when people don't have this crazy possessionitis, the whole world's coming down. So they need that rhetoric out there.
Yeah. When
you realize it's rhetoric and not real.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to go up and down my street. I'll never forget. My dad had this incredible set of Craftsman wrenches, huge, multiple sets. And I pulled out the 11/16. This is when I was visiting him years ago before he passed. And I was like, this has never been used in 50 fucking years. And I looked at all the other people who had the exact same $300, $400, $500 a set of Craftsman. I said, they could all share one set of Craftsman wrenches. And when somebody 2 decades from now goes, hey, I need 11/16 socket, who's got it? I mean, it's like, think about all the things, lawnmowers and cars. You know the average utilization of the average American car is 5%? It's ridiculous. It parks idle and collects dust 95% of the time, but you're paying for it 100% of the time. So robo-taxis, you'll be able to send your car out to collect money when you're, so things like that are, like, younger generations are much smarter about not owning these incredible liabilities that we thought were assets. They're not. Your house might be because of land and blah, blah, blah.
I mean, you can easily do that here in Bangkok. I mean, you can just...
Oh, everywhere on a Grab or a motorbike. It's just like seconds. And once I got to New York, I drove to New York. I had a fully paid off car, nice car. Yeah. My friend's like, you're going to sell your car. I'm like, dude, I love my car. I'm not going to sell my car. Go to start it up, the battery's dead. I'm paying $500 a month to park the goddamn thing and never use it. And 6 months later, I'm like, for sale. Lady in New Jersey bought it. She needs the car. I didn't have a car for 17 years, so I'd already separated myself from the car. Now, for me, a motorcycle is different. It's more, like I said, it's more therapeutic. I ride with friends. We go on rides, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But like, you don't need a car. You don't need all that stuff that you think in your life that you need. Yeah. It's ridiculous. You don't need an apartment or a house as large as you need. Everyone kept building shrines to themselves. I'll tell you a story. I had a business partner from many years ago. I had this giant house, bigger than my sister's house, huge. He went through some tough times, had to sell it at a loss, took a $5 million hit. You don't want to do that. You don't want to build it for 18 and sell it for 13. That's not smart, right?
I would cry.
You want to build like a $6 million house, and when tough times hit, then you're just sitting in that house, you're like, I don't need to sell it.
Yeah.
See the difference? Anyway, I learned these lessons early. I'm like, all right, wait a minute. I don't want to sell my house in a fire sale because I built a shrine to myself that was just ginormous.
Yeah, learn from others' mistakes.
Yeah.
So from the sounds of it, you're much happier settling here in Thailand, just realizing what the real, what the true values of things are.
And settle is a hard word for me. And I like, one thing I kind of learned, and I knew this even before the Billionaires I worked for, I started just doing research on perpetual traveler, and some people call it the 5 flags theory.
Yeah.
So I may keep a footprint here in Thailand because my girlfriend's Thai, she's half Chinese, half Thai, master's degree, speaks 3 languages, as a white collar job. It's just I got very lucky that I've heard stories both ways, but I got lucky and just happened to meet. People ask me how I was dating in Thailand. I said, I don't know, I dated one girl. I just met a girl in a Starbucks and she was amazing. So we'll probably keep it, because she has family here, obviously. She loves Europe. She's traveled there 3 times. She's been to Japan. She's been all over the world. She's a big time traveler. But we may keep some sort of footprint here, or I might keep that flexibility to kind of like move around. And that 5 flags theory kind of like bodes into like that kind of lifestyle where you kind of have maybe a footprint in a few different places. You have like a business place, and you have an asset place, you have a playground place, you have all the other, I forgot the other, tax jurisdiction. Like you have these multiple passports, multiple citizenships. So I'm kind of moving more and more towards that direction. Yeah. And Bangkok will probably, or Thailand, and we may maybe go down to Phuket. We were thinking, hey, why don't we just rent in Phuket for 6 months? Okay, great.
I like that. You're living the nomad capitalist, what Andrew Henderson
but it's kind of like not like the guy with the backpack who's like scrubby and sleeping in.
No, you graduate. We've all graduated from
now
that.
It's like 4 and 5 star hotels, and I'm flying business class. So it's kind of like the older version of that, but it's also doing it because it makes more sense from a tax jurisdiction and a business jurisdiction and a living jurisdiction. And when you bring all that together, you can live a fantastic lifestyle. I mean, like I said, so we took 2 months and went to Europe, 8 different countries during the summer, because I can work remote from my laptop, because I set up our firm to work that way. I'm closing that firm down, but everything is now remote. If you're not working remote, if your office is not your laptop and you're going into an office someday, you may want to consider living a more fun and interesting lifestyle. That's my opinion.
Final question that I want to conclude this interview. We got a lot of wonderful information. Love hearing your life story about this.
Sure.
But I want to know, what are the current and future plans of Dave Walker? And then if you have to leave anything or like a bit of advice for some for the expats that are living here in Bangkok or in Thailand in general.
So what advice do I have for people who are going to come over here, or?
Yeah, just general advice given your life experience. I mean, it can be money focused. It doesn't have to be investing or basic advice in general.
Yeah, well, like I really love it here because, like I said, Bangkok is kind of cool. It's kind of like New York on steroids.
Yeah.
You know, it has this weird vibrancy to it. It has super high end if you want super high end, or if you want just like cool, mellow, whatever, you can go to that part. Just like New York, you can go to like the Brooklyn, or you can have a little bit of a vibe, or you can go to, you know, Red Hook and get like a really great meal, or you can go to Manhattan and go like spend $500 for 2 people on a dinner at a great restaurant, whatever. Yeah. So it's got a little bit for anybody. You just go wherever you. Bangkok has that same sort of thing. Thailand for me was just like, it's insanely beautiful. Like we like going down south. I love the water. It's so warm. It's just incredibly beautiful. So I think it has a lot to offer. Whether it's here or any other place, like go to where you really feel happy. And like this is kind of like of the 5 Flags series. This is like my playground, right? And yeah, it's relatively inexpensive. I was spending $6,000 a month on a Miami apartment, beautiful apartment in a downtown in a beautiful building on Biscayne Boulevard, 6 blocks from the Miami Heat Stadium, overlooking gorgeous apartment. You know, is it cheaper here for that same version of that apartment? Yeah, I have a beautiful apartment in a luxury high-rise overlooking, and I have an incredible view at night, like 40 some odd stories high with the beautiful skyline, and it's a fraction of the cost. Gotcha. You know, that's just kind of like a little bit of good luck. And I wasn't really planning on staying as long as I stayed, but it kind of feels great. So my future plans might be, you know, like I said, I'm kind of in demand, and my resume is kind of out there, and people are kind of like, you know, hey, would you want to take a role? And so if I took a role back in the States, I'd have to like go back to the States for a bit. But like I said, I'll probably always want to keep some sort of footprint here, or come back and reestablish a footprint here. It's not that difficult, right? To include maybe multiple footprints here, Europe, and U.S. is kind of the 3 that I kind of, but for advice, I'd say, you know, wherever you want to go, if it's here, come and check it out for a bit. Like contact someone like you, obviously. You know, I don't know if you're asking for a plug, but I enjoy, you're not, but I want to give you a plug because that made it so much easier talking to you ahead of time, watching your videos ahead of time, watching other people's videos, but yours were very helpful because they were very forthright, and then contacting you ahead of time and getting your consulting and saying, do this, don't do that. It totally sped up my adoption curve to like getting in here, and it became super seamless. Like it got me into a nice place in a good area and blah, 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 where I had to kind of struggle and figure that out on my own would have been difficult. So that was super helpful. And I love our little group here, I gotta be honest. That was super helpful. Beyond just you, it's like you introduced me to, you know, a few of our other friends. Yeah. And we're all in the kind of same bucket. We're all into finance, we're all into like modern types of investments and whatnot, but we have different ways of doing it, which is great because you want people to bounce ideas off and tell you 3 different things. Where are you being stupid? Where are you wrong? And what are you missing? And so it's been extremely helpful for me, and hopefully I've been able to give back to the group. Yeah. And that's been amazing. We play games together, we go out and have lunches together, we have dinners together, we play pickleball together. I don't know if we should admit that publicly, but it's so much fun. And we talk about investments together. Like, it's been amazing, the group that we've had here, and it's been very tight. Whereas my other groups, even in the U.S., haven't been as tight because they're doing something different, or they're taking the kids to volleyball and they don't invest. Like, all right, and they don't play pickleball. It's like we don't have a lot of commonality, even though I've known them for like decades. It's weird, right? So our group is super tight, and so when you do come over here, like, get in with a group that you like and do similar things with, and that's always helpful for wherever you go. But Bangkok has been amazing, and it's been amazing fun. It's a gorgeous country, gorgeous people, you know, and I'm like, the good group of friends that I have here is amazing. Like I said, I love it in all different aspects. And whether I go back to the States for a bit and come back, who knows how it'll work out. My girlfriend and I are getting pretty serious, so, you know, like I said, she's half Thai, and so there will be a connection to Thailand one way or another. Even if we don't say go long, I like it. I like coming here. Southeast Asia is amazing. The whole area is just beautiful. There's hidden secrets everywhere here. Just amazing. You can go down to an island here in Thailand and just live in a beautiful 4-star, 5-star hut on the beach, you know, high end, 4 Seasons or whatever, or Ritz, and it's cheaper than wherever, but it's still not super cheap, but it's just gorgeous, like absolutely unbelievable. You know.
Well, I think no matter where you go, Thailand's always going to be here for you, whether you leave for a bit or and then eventually come back. It's not going to go anywhere. I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to share your life story and like some advice that you can give our audience out there.
Absolutely.
Really appreciate it, Dave.
Yeah.
I may add this next part in or not. Do you want people to contact you or not? I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Maybe we can put in my blog. I have like a little new blog thingy that I write once a week.
Okay.
I have 16 followers.
Okay, perfect.
Maybe we should listen if you want to follow Dave.
If you guys want to follow Dave on his blog and his wonderful 16 followers, we're going to get that pumped up. We're going to get that to 1,000, 10,000.
I'm not doing it for that reason, but right now I'm sharing philosophical. It's like all this weird high level philosophical stuff. Yeah. And eventually what I'd like to have my investing rules on there. Eventually like I do it, I might put trade ideas up there.
Sure.
But when you do that, you got to like disclaim the living hell out of it because someone buys Tesla and Tesla goes to zero. They go, what the, they get their lawyer contacts you.
No
we
worries.
don't want that. I got to like disclaim it better and do all that stuff.
I'll put it in the blog. Yeah. This is not financial advice, people.
Just
for enjoyment and entertainment purposes only.
I just like to share because people share with me, and I think that's very helpful. You share with me, Evan, Roman, all these guys.
Absolutely.
It's super helpful. I love it here, and like I said, I super appreciate your friendship, your fellowship, and just it's been very helpful.
Likewise.
For me. I really like it, man. Great.
Appreciate it, Dave.
Thanks, man. Good, Forrest.
Thank you.
All right.